Hello there. Our contrastive analysis is focused on Italian. This presentation is by Rebecca Varon
and Samantha Tripp.
We hope you find it useful for your classroom. So we're going to start with the English language, a history. English is part of the Germanic language family, which derives from the Indo-European. There are over 350 million native English speakers in the world, plus many more in which English is not actually their primary language. And this could be either a joint language or a second language that's recognized in the country. Some of the countries in which they have native English speakers include Australia, Canada, the UK, Jamaica, Ireland, and obviously the United States of America. It is the most common second language that people learn, and English is the language that is used to communicate at the international level because it is so widely used. Some linguistic features of the English language are as follows. English is built off of 26 Roman letters. There are no diacritics, or as we know them, accent marks, unless those words that have them are from other languages and are used widely in English. Even then, we don't always include them in our spellings. An example of this is the word naive. English has 20 vowel sounds and 24 consonant sounds, approximately. And we are most known for our unpredictable word stress, which makes it most difficult for people to learn this language. There are fewer verb forms because each word covers more ground in the English language, and the English language has the largest vocabulary of any language.
So now we're going to switch over to the history of the Italian language. So Italian derives from Latin, and it is the closest Romance language to Latin. Italian is one of the 5 most common spoken Romance languages. Since the Italian language is a Romance language, students will find that many cognates will open doors to English words, and it will be slightly easier for them to learn. There are approximately 64 million native speakers of Italian, and Italian is spoken in many other countries other than Italy, and it has official language status in Switzerland, San Marino, Vatican City, Sovereign Military Order of Malta, Croatia, Slovenia, and the European Union. So there are many different dialects of Italian, as the Italian language derives from Vulgar Latin. So these dialects can tend to be considered their own languages that stem from Standard Italian, and there are about 32 different known dialects. And right to the right on the screen that you're on right now is a picture of just some different dialects that are broken up. We see that there's main colors there, but there are more dialects integrated within those sections. So now some linguistic features of the Italian language. So to begin, we look at phonology, and vowel differences can show up in minimal pairs, such as sheep and sheet, bet and mat, cot and coat. So the tendency is to swallow the weaker vowels within the English language, as it causes difficulties both in the listening comprehension and in the production of natural sounding speech. So students may have a harder time with those certain vowels within those words. So then moving on to grammar, sentence structure in English and Italian vary immensely. So in English, sentence structure tends to be in the form of a subject, then a verb, and then some type of object. However, this varies within the Italian language, and it allows for a greater variation with sentence structure. Meanwhile, with English, if the order is out of order, it means a totally different meaning to the sentence. So some adjectives in Italian usually follow the noun. They do not precede it as in English. So we have another big difference there with grammar. And the use of articles. So the use of articles correlate with the gender of the word being used in the Italian language, which we don't pick up on as often in the English language. And then we go on to punctuation. So Rebecca mentioned earlier with the use of accent marks. So an accent mark can also be used in the Italian language, and the most common example is over the letter E, and that accent mark just kind of changes the pronunciation of the given word. And then we also see in Italian the use of an apostrophe. So it's generally used to indicate the dropping of the final vowel before the word that follows it. So we have the example of the word automobile, and they drop the A and replace it with an apostrophe with the article in front of the word. So then we have some linguistic features of English and Italian, just a small comparison for you to get a better understanding for our future students. So here we have a alphabet chart within the Italian language. So Italian is phonetic and English is not. So it's a little bit harder to sound out a word in English than it is in Italian. You can kind of hear more of the letters being pronounced in the Italian language. And the alphabet is where we get a little bit of a differentiation, where we have 26 letters and versus 44 sounds in the English language alone. So right on that screen is a chart for you of the alphabet, and we have all of the letters that are used in the Italian language with the exceptions of J, K, W, X, and Y. So those letters are considered foreign in the Italian language. They still have those 26 letters, but again, they are considered foreign and are used mostly in import words, which we'll see on the next slide.
So, of course, with learning any language as a second language, whether it be English or Italian, there are projected speed bumps. So we're going to discuss some projected speed bumps for our Italian students, possibly learning English, and some difficulties that we can help them overcome. So just like in Italian, we also have different dialects or accents within the English language. We do have a little bit of a fun example between two different dialects in Italian. An Italian family from Abbadia San Salvatore in Siena had gone out to eat at a restaurant. The cousins that had moved out of town ordered una latina di Coca-Cola, while the cousins that still lived in town ordered the same exact thing but dropped the C. We could compare this to a Boston accent where the R in some words like park or car tend to get left behind, thus we have go park the car in the yard. The English alphabet has 26 letters, while the Italian alphabet has the same 26 letters, but J, K, W, X, and Y are considered foreign unless they are used in an import word from another language, and we saw that on the chart in the previous slide. Some other speed bumps are vowel differences in minimal pairs that we saw at the beginning of the presentation as well, and this does cause students to have a tendency to swallow weak vowels, and that can definitely cause difficulties both in listening comprehension and in the production of natural sounding speech. And if you were to pay attention to Italian students trying to speak English, you would hear these difficulties coming out in twofold. We then have punctuation speed bumps as well. Within the English language, the main difference with punctuation is that there really aren't many accent marks, but obviously in the Italian language, there are many. With or without the accent marks on specific Italian words, the words could mean completely different things, whereas in English, that would not be the case. And it may take students a little bit longer to fully understand some of the pronunciation differences within the English language and when to add emphasis within a certain word. It's important to recognize that, as in the case with life in general, it's more than what you say. So there are clear nonverbal behavior of Italian speakers that we need to go ahead and analyze and be aware of as future educators. So the obvious nonverbal behavior within Italian that's often the laughingstock of the language is how often they use their hands to talk or communicate.
So now we have some cultural norms that are also going to be a big part within your classroom when dealing with Italian-speaking students. So some cultural norms, one big one is that family is a very central part of the Italian culture, and this includes extended family as well. So it does not just stop with the parents and the children of the household. So it would not necessarily be out of the ordinary for a student in your class to talk about having, multiple generations all living with each other or living relatively close to each other. And also religion would be another big part of Italian families. So most Italians are Roman Catholic, and this has a lot to do with Vatican City being located in central Italy, where the Pope lives, and they all celebrate Christian holidays. And some also other holidays that Italians will celebrate would be the Epiphany on January 6th, where La Befana comes to visit all children that have behaved. It's kind of similar to our idea of Santa Claus. And Italians also celebrate Saints' Day as well as Liberation Day. So some classroom implications to teach your Italian students would be cultural understanding. Incorporate different aspects from Italian culture, such as holidays, and, for example, have students write a brief paragraph about their family norms or other things that they would like to share with the class, focusing on one specific aspect of the English language.